one of the things you really need in all tournaments are those subplots. Messi going up against PSG. You can sell that game. You can persuade people who support neither of those teams that they might want to watch PSG against Inter Miami for the slender chance that for 90 minutes on a sultry night in the American summer, Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets and Luis Suarez and all the others can roll back the years and pull off a shock.
We back! Like Paul Pogba, we were promised a summer that was a festival of football, and we've got one. It's a fire festival of football, but I know I'm having a great time watching the Club World Cup, which is like an old centaur from the days of Greek mythology, half football, half chaos vanity tournament, and our Gold Cup. Oh, the Spirit Airlines of international tournaments as we charge towards a round of 16 in one, the quarterfinals already in the other, to break down all the storylines, check in with all the happenings at your favourite Premier League team of choice. My God, Liverpool Football Club, hogging all the players. It is so good, so bloody good to reconnect with my partner in podcast, the Crown Prince of Harrogate, the man who at Men in Blazers is known for giving his name to the Rory Smith newsletter. Yes, from The Observer. It's Mr. Rory Smith.
How you doing, Rog?
Oh, Raw, I am so happy to see you. Even happier when I realise that, like this time next week, you will have descended upon these shores. Rory Smith, arrival imminent.
It is. Someone alert the border authorities. I'm going to Philly for a day to watch a Club World Cup game, maybe a little bit in New Jersey, and then we're in New York together for a whole week, Rog. It's very exciting.
We will talk about the New York element, but I'm hearing Rory's adventures into cheesesteaks. Rory ventures into the pork roll Taylor ham debate, of which I'd just be very, very careful. It makes other global conflicts seem like genuinely solvable. But are you ready to arrive on these football crazy shores, knowing that with your arrival, this very nation of ours will contain three of the biggest names in global football? Rory Smith, Gianni Infantino, and I Show Speed. We're a big country, but I'm not sure we're ready.
That is the dream. As previously discussed, Rog, Gianni's just a podcaster.
Streamer.
That is a dream stream, isn't it? Me, Speed, and Gianni. I have no idea what we'd talk about.
By the way, Gianni is just a humble streamer, in the same way as Jesus was just once just a humble carpenter.
Don't make that comparison. Just Gianni will start putting it on posters. Don't compare him to Jesus. It's what he wants.
Does that make I Show Speed, Paul? My theology is a bit off. I don't know how it works.
No, he's John the Baptist. Speed is John the Baptist.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'll give him that. By the way, Paul would have been out there, outlandish. But Speed is John the Baptist is... I know, we're bordering into blasphemy, so I am going to roll it back. But Raw is going to appear for me with live tapings in New York City. Yes, this magnificent blazing hot city of ours ahead of both Club World Cup semi-finals. So if you are here, save the date. We'll be doing things live in and around the games. And we'll also be here for the final, where I believe we will be broadcasting live from MetLife itself. What could possibly go wrong? Checks notes and looks what happened at last year's Copa final. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Stay tuned for the details of all of that, which is imminent. Raw, here's what I do want to know. Are you ready for your accent to go mid-Atlantic? Like little American twang creeping in?
As we established on my previous visit to the US, Rog, there are certain words that you have to say in an American accent. So the town of Decatur in Georgia has to be said Decatur, which sounds ridiculous to me. And obviously you have a whole state. There's an entire state that you can't say in an English accent.
What's that? Norwich?
The one that should be pronounced Connecticut.
Yeah. Is that what you're saying? So you are slowly morphing it. But you did say to me you're actually the most American facet of Smith, #Smith Life. It's not a surname. It's a philosophy. It's an outlook, #Smith Life. Is that you become a shorts guy?
I'm a shorts guy in the summer. I'm actually a shorts guy because of my son. My son is an ardent shorts guy, refuses to wear trousers.
By the way, very age appropriate, around the age of your son's age, 11. Like, wearing shorts when it's cold, like for school, now I'm wearing shorts. It's like, it's just a sign of natural rebellion. It's just like, it's revolutionary. I'm wearing shorts, so suck it.
I tell you what it is, Rog. It's toxic masculinity. That's what it is. But the
as long as it's just that and not something serious.
My son will not wear anything other than shorts. He won't wear trousers. He finds if he started a religion to continue the blasphemy theme, the first rule would be you're not allowed to cover your calves. That's not. It's
By the way,
not
that does sound biblical when you're just you should not eat an ass in its mother's milk. Thou shalt not cover thy calves does actually sound like a shorts theology.
Thine calves are given by God. God wants to see those calves. That's how my son lives.
By the way,
his life.
religions have been based on lesser tenets, but that essentially he has now become that. Which I want to put into context. America is like shorts in England. When I grew up, it was exotic. You'd wear them obviously to play rugby or football, but there was never weather reasons growing up in Liverpool to ever wear shorts. They were seen as really exotic, almost flamboyant. But shorts life, Raw, here in America, it is a thing. I was joking about your name being a lifestyle, a philosophy. I remember in Chicago, shorts guy is a guy. It's a commitment. There was obviously Chicago glorious in the summer. When the hawk hits in the winter and it's minus 10 degrees, there is a masked element of shorts guy who's still out there, still, cheering on Notre Dame deep into the college football playoffs, walking around, minus 10, shorts guy.
We have the same in England. So where I live is relatively rural, and it doesn't get that cold in the winter regularly. But it does, it gets cold and wet and damp and dark. And I would say there are 10%.
You're really selling the Yorkshire tourist board.
This is the thing about Yorkshire. We don't need a tourist board. We don't want people to move here. But there'll be 10% of the male population will just be right, I'm a shorts guy. Why would I change my shorts for the weather? I think there are people I know who don't own trousers.
I have so many questions, but I'm going to let all the shorts guys who are listening, I do salute you. I am actually the opposite. I've realised this summer in particular, it's been electrically hot, as we will discuss when we get into the Club World Cup in just one moment. We've been travelling around following the Gold Cup journey. I've realised this summer, it's taken a long time, I am so bad at dressing weather appropriate. We shot at Terry Black's barbecue in Austin. I just got off the plane. It was freezing in New York when I left. We landed. It was 96 degrees in Austin, 98, I think, by the time we got there. And we were on a very rushed schedule. And I just went for it, wearing still a heavy New Balance sweatshirt, which I've been getting a lot of crap for. But it takes my body a long time, I realised, to actually adjust. It took me a long time, many hours, to realise just how unbelievably idiotically dressed I was and how unbelievably hot I was. I don't know if that's a superpower. Does it mean I'm cold-blooded or something? Am I a cold-blooded animal?
It means you're very warm to me, Rog. It means you, like me, and maybe this is a British thing, I think we take a long time to trust the weather. So I'll notice.
Trust the weather.
Even in that spring summer borderland, and you've been in the States for a long time now, Rog, but in that spring summer borderland in England, it will be I can't do the Fahrenheit, so 19, 20 degrees, warm but not hot.
Yeah.
And you'll start to see people, the shorts guys will come out, obviously.
Shorts guy.
And, there'll be people wearing maybe just a light top or a linen trouser. Not that many anymore. People don't wear linen trousers in Britain. It's very sad. But I will still wear a jacket because you can't trust the weather. And Rog, your British brain, the British part of your brain, which sits next to the monkey part of your brain, the British part of your brain is saying, could rain at any minute. Who knows when it's going to rain? It's always raining.
I feel underdressed. That is the British part of my brain is the monkey part of my brain, Raw. And I do feel underdressed when I'm not wearing a jacket, no matter what the weather. I also drink hot tea throughout the summer outside, and I love soup for dinner, which confuses all the waiters. I don't know what it is. If there's any doctors, am I a cold-blooded animal? This could be the solution.
Rog, tea is a year-round thing. Tea is not weather-dependent. It's just tea.
Yeah, but surely having a very hot drink. No. My mother always says having a hot drink, she says, in hot weather cools you down, which, of course, my mother has no A-levels, no O-levels. I'm not sure it's scientifically grounded. Again, medical experts who are listening, please get in touch. Tell me just diagnose what's going on. meninblazers@gmail.com. Roy, you wouldn't know from this top, but we've got a lot of football to dive into, and dive into it well. By the way, more of this. conversation about cold-bloodedness, short sky, Rory Smith's plug for the Yorkshire Tourist Board, which I do think may be as ill-effective as the Leicester Tourist Board in the late 60s, early 80s. I can't remember what the nation was. It was somewhere in Asia where there was a fear in England of mass immigration. And I remember the Leicester Tourist Board, or the Leicester government, local government, put advertisements in whatever country it was saying, whatever you do not move to Leicester. It is a horrible place. Do not move to Leicester. And just whatever country it was, seeing the only town they'd ever heard of in England, Leicester, they all went and moved there. So I hope your Yorkshire negativity is as effective and wonderful as Leicester's was back in the day. But to the football. Oh, it's Uganda, says producer J Dubs. Is that true? My God. God bless. Respect. Hello to all the Ugandans listening. North Yorkshire is gorgeous this time of year. And this Sunday night, after the US men take on Costa Rica and Minneapolis, Minnesota in the Gold Cup quarterfinals, please God, I'll be going live once again with the quite inimitable and iconic Clint Dempsey on our YouTube channel. I've loved talking to Clint all summer long. I know his insight in real time has given you a real delirious journey alongside our men's national team. Be sure you join us right after the final. Ask Clint whatever you want in the light of day. Please God, we'll be celebrating and we'll get to answer your questions. And on Monday, I'll be live in Washington, D.C. at the Howard Theatre with the incredible Sam Lewis and a Good Vibes FC co-host Becky Sauerbrunn before the United States women's national team takes on Canada. What a force they are at Audi Field. We'll welcome Canada's head coach, Casey Stoney. Come on and talk about the historic, epic Rumble rivalry. Be joined on stage by WNBA heroes Georgia A. Moore and Sonia Citron of the Washington Mystics to talk all things about that glorious city. This show is, I think there's a couple of tickets left. General admission tickets are gone, but grab yours while they are available. Come and raise a pint with us and celebrate in person. Link for tickets is in the note to this show. I would love to raise a beer with you. And remember, in your own interests and those of your family, you should accept the advice of the Uganda Resettlement Board and not come to Leicester. But Raw, let's start with my third first Michelob Ultra of the day, raised to Super Paul Mullin, a man who left Wrexham for Wigan on loan a couple of days ago. And I've got to say, I felt so sad when I saw the news break. And I know thousands of Wrexham fans did too. I wrote on our social media a little essay to Paul saying that ultimately he'll be like a biblical patriarch. When we see the Wrexham story play out, ballads will be sung about how in the early days, right in the bowels of the National League, he scored for fun and then kept on scoring, rebounding from punctured lungs, from broken ribs, and he remained undeniable as that team that he loved, he truly loved it, became unstoppable. But it's really the style in which he did it. He always said, whenever he'd come on this show, that the most important thing is creating fan memories that will last a lifetime. He understood what was good about football, and spending time with Paul, I've got to say, the man he played on television was the man he is in real life. He is so humble. He's a really empathetic human being. I remember when my dad was dying, Paul sent a video message. He'd heard that my dad's favourite football player was Super Paul Mullin. He sent a beautiful message. And I just say to all Wrexham fans, may his post-match air punches live on as exclamation points of joy in all of our collective memories. And just remember, he'll always be red and white. He's effing dynamite. I did get a lovely note from Paul in the wake. I know he's really feeling it in a way that is rare in football. But Raw, this is also football, right? It's the least romantic business in the world other than maybe chicken farming.
Yeah, and this is something that's happened already in the Wrexham story and will continue to happen as the club grows, that the players who form such a central part of it will have to be moved on. And it's always kind of sad when it happens. It's sad when it happens in the normal run of things, when you support a team because that's who your family supported or because that's where you're from. You have to wave goodbye to your heroes. But when you've bonded to that team, those players, because of their characters, as so many people have done with Wrexham, it is, I think, even sadder to see them go. But it's inevitable. It's part of the cycle of things.
Cycle of life. Listeners, at the end of the day, we're all going to die. Paul, I know you listen to this crap, and I just say I can't imagine what you're experiencing right now. I do hope that you draw so much strength from the fan response, which has been enormous and transcendent. You are and will always be, for Wrexham fans, a total legend. Godspeed. We're going to get to the football. I do just quickly want to say, Raw, when I went to the barbecue in Austin, I went to Terry Black's. Stay with me here. There's a feud in the Black family, the original Blacks. Terry Black's is a spin-off. Every single great food stuff in America, there's always a family feud. So we went to Terry Black's, and I got a lot of crap. A lot of you are telling me, Black's is much better than Terry Black's. Why would you go to Terry Black's? And then half of you are like, you went to the right Black's. You went to Terry Black's. I only went to Terry Black's, to be candid, because I swear, I thought it was something to do with Terry's chocolate oranges. Genuinely. I mean, can you imagine that, Raw? Barbecue fused with Terry's chocolate orange. Genuinely, I'd never eat anything else again.
The Terry's chocolate orange is the entirely appropriate dessert option for a barbecue. Which reminds me, Roger, that I need to say thank you to you.
For what?
Because it was my birthday the other day.
Yes.
And you very kindly sent me the best present I've ever got, which was a bouquet of Terry's chocolate oranges. Which was a genuinely extraordinary thing. I have no idea how you found it, but it was a genuinely extraordinary thing. And I think I have a photo of it. It does feature both my children, but we might be able to put that on the socials in some way. But a genuine full-on bouquet of Terry's chocolate oranges. It was genuinely the perfect present.
It was late night Googling. I did Google, what do you get for the man who has everything but loves Terry's chocolate orange?
Just more Terry's chocolate oranges.
Yeah, but Terry Black's, if you're listening, please do a collab. Terry's chocolate orange by Terry Black's, and genuinely, my life's work will be done. But Roy, we've got to talk about the Club World Cup. We talked on Monday about this quite strange, kind of formative, always beta testing, I think they call it. We were on a call with Meta the other day, and they talked about dog fooding. We're going to dog food that. And I was like, what does that mean? And they were like, it means we're beta testing. I was like, why don't you just say beta testing? And no, we don't do that. We dog food. So I think Gianni Infantino is actually dog fooding the Club World Cup. That's what he's doing, Raw. This strange kind of still football, sweet football tournament, but slightly commercially bloated and still kind of ill-formed. We talked in detail on Monday's show, but let's catch up on all the wonder, all the dog fooding. First, the good. A little-known striker on the tiny team scored his first goal for the club in this tournament. But enough about Liam Delap and Chelsea. Let's talk about the glory of the single greatest goal in football history ever to be scored by a teacher in training, Mr. Christian Gray, who I believe, of course I knew this because this is just stats, right, Roy? Everyone knows this. He's a trainee teacher at Mount Roskill Intermediate School in Auckland, nodded home a corner from Jerson Lagos. You know what he does, Jerson Lagos?
I do not.
He's a barber, and he headed home. Yeah, barber to teacher. Headed home, an equaliser for the mostly amateur team of Auckland FC from New Zealand, and they ended up tying with the mighty Boca Juniors. Yes, Diego Maradona's Boca Juniors held them to a draw. Roy, is this the glory of the Club World Cup? Because I would bet Gianni Infantino, when he was dog fooding, wasn't thinking of glorifying amateur muckers while he streamed with speed. So brilliantly envisioned this tournament.
Yeah, I don't think it's been well received in Argentina, the fact that Boca have drawn with Auckland City. And by all accounts, FIFA haven't necessarily been that enthusiastic about having Auckland around. I think their presence is at odds with what kind of Infantino and his backers and FIFA see this tournament as being. They don't want it really to be a global celebration of football. They want it to... put it this way, it's no accident that all of the kind of iconography of the tournament is gold, Rog. Everything is gold. The livery is gold. The logo is gold. The trophies made by Tiffany's. There's not a kind of trainee teacher scores a goal vibe going on to the Club World Cup. But it's really hard not to find it deeply moving, especially after Auckland's start, losing 10-0 to Bayern Munich. You kind of feared for them. I spoke to a couple of people at Auckland before that game, and they were so excited to be involved. Like they said they told the players, look, you are here to compete, you are here to do your best, but try and enjoy it just as human beings, just as like ordinary people who get to play against Bayern Munich. And they lose 10-0, and you think there's going to be a point where that kind of stings a little bit. And then they did okay against Benfica. It was 1-0 at half time. They stood up to them, lost 6-0 in the end. But there's a little bit of honour in that. And then to take a point against Boca Juniors is genuinely heartwarming and uplifting and stirring, and a reminder that guts and gumption and grit, they are all really important ingredients in football. So no, it's Auckland City, I think, have been a definite boon for the tournament.
I know, I will say, if I'm Pat McAfee watching Auckland FC, I'm thinking about taking my CONCACAF team, the heartbeat of TST, and entering them in the Club World Cup. You know what? I'm giving you ideas, Johnny, as you continue to dog food this. I'm just saying. But the second moment I want to talk about, and this is true history, trademark. Inter Miami became the first team ever to qualify for the Club World Cup by winning their League Supporters Cup, but not the title. But who cares? Because as John Strong says, Messi! And the club that David Beckham built were able to hold off just about a delirious, late-breaking Palmeiras and their quite glorious fan base who filled the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. I actually spent the night booing in hell, which is quite amazing. Game ended in a 2-2. I think with 2 goals in the last 10 minutes as the Brazilians clawed the game back. I've got to say, 38-year-old Luis Suarez, if you've not seen his second goal for Inter Miami, in which it was a stunning goal, but the reality that he had to exhume himself from his grave to actually to do it, rolling back the years, magnificent to witness. Snapped back to life like the Undertaker, if the Undertaker was Uruguayan. And now, Raw, we are gifted a deliciously ripped from fan fiction, intriguing clash against Miami versus PSG, European champion Paris Saint-Germain. I think this is the first time Lionel Messi has ever faced one of his former club teams as a club player. And you think of PSG, how many supporter shields have they ever won, Raw? This is where Lionel spent 2 quite miserable tear-baptised years between 2021 to 2023. This is when we dog-fooded the Club World Cup, what was dreamed of, right? Games that sound almost science fiction. Inter Miami, the pride of MLS, against PSG.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you really need in all tournaments are those subplots. It can't just be about who is going to win this, because that is ultimately quite a long process. The Club World Cup lasts for a month, Rog. People will lose interest if the only thing that the only hook you have is who's going to win this tournament. It's the same in World Cups. You're looking for those subplots, those kind of B-rolls. Messi done up against PSG. I don't think anybody expects Inter Miami to beat PSG, although PSG have been a little bit up and down in this tournament. You can sell that game. You can persuade people who support neither of those teams that they might want to watch PSG against Inter Miami for the sake of seeing Messi play against his former club, for the slender chance that for 90 minutes on a sultry night in the American summer, Lionel Messi and Sergio Busquets and Luis Suarez and all the others can roll back the years and pull off a shock. There is something about that has an appeal to neutrals, and that's what Infantino and FIFA and this tournament need. They need games that stand alone as events.
The way you've just described it, Raw, Shani, again, I know we're dog fooding here, but Americans love, you want to catch your imagination, they love old, legendary, dead players emerging on the field. And I know you're working on the way the players are walking onto the field in this one. Have the Inter Miami players, imagine a cornfield by the side of the field, and they just step out of the cornfield like Luis Suarez. God, I thought he was dead. No, he's back to life. Sergio Busquets died years ago. No, he's back on the field again. It's genuinely field of dreams crap, this. And in all seriousness, if Inter Miami were to somehow, Vitinha is going to have arguably a field day against that midfield. But you can also say Inter Miami, Nepo babies. In terms of this tournament, their qualification kind of totally undermined the whole integrity of the whole tournament. Their qualifying for this knockout round, despite all of that, is an incredible achievement for the club. It's an incredible achievement for MLS. Miami becoming the first ever team in our nation's history to face a European team in competitive play and beat them. Yes, both LAFC and the Seattle Sounders eliminated, but it's remarkable. Yes, an unmotivated, exhausted, uncompetitive Porto Raw, but it is. It is a moment. It is a moment.
It is, absolutely, and it kind of justifies the decision to crowbar into Miami into the tournament, because that Messi moment against Porto, that will go down as one of the tournament's most significant memories. Seeing Inter Miami get through suggests that they belong here, that they're not here by raffle. They're here because They did kind of, sort of win something valid, something that looked vaguely valid to European eyes. There was an excuse to get them in, and they've justified their place. They have done something to make the tournament feel a little bit more animated, to give it some life. And you talked about dog fooding, Rog.
Dog fooding. It just has no G at the end. It is dog fooding.
That doesn't work in a British accent like Connecticut. What you need while you're waiting for the tournament to take on its shape, for it to mean whatever it's going to start to mean in the future, you need those little moments. And Messi has provided one. Miami has provided one. I don't think they can beat PSG. I think Vitinha and João Neves and all the others will really enjoy playing against that team. But they have got through. They will get their moment in the sunshine. They will play the European champions. You can't look back on the tournament and say they shouldn't have been here. They've done something to warrant their place.
God, by the way, dog fooding, which would sound terrible in it. Can you imagine dog fooding being... I don't think it would be less inspiring than if it was said in a Birmingham accent. What's a dog food, that?
Do the Americans not have the phrase dog's dinner?
Yeah, we don't. I mean, you should explain what that is now. A dog's dinner is just like, oh my God. I mean,
it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess. You've made a mess of something. You've made a dog's dinner of something. You've made
Club
a mess
World
of it.
Cup.
So I would say
Club
that...
World Cup is a dog's dinner. You can make that case. No, we're just dog food in it. I also think dog food in it with Gianni is a good name for Infantino's forthcoming pod. But God bless Miami. I mean it. And by the way, Lionel Messi should take the field fearlessly against PSG. Just go to Vitinha with his beer, because he loves Michelob Ultra, and just say, play you for an Ultra? I know how that works. He cannot be beat. I've seen the commercials. But Miami's progress, they're actually being in this thing. It does highlight one of the most profound and fundamental challenges with this slightly jerry-rigged tournament. Miami are in because they won kind of a hot air midway through the season Tchotchke Trophy. But who's not there? We talked about this in our preview. The champions of Italy, champions of Spain, champions of England. So what does that actually all mean? This whole thing we're watching from a competitive perspective. Can the champions of this dog food tournament truly consider themselves champions of the world when they've not beaten Liverpool, Barcelona, Napoli along the way?
Yeah, I guess the argument that FIFA would make is you have to have some criteria, and you can't wait to see who wins stuff this season to finalise the lineup. You've got to make like logistical plans. You've got to get teams across to the US or wherever they're going to hold the 2029 edition. You have to draw a cut-off point at some point, and they did. And in all cases other than Miami, I think pretty much all of the teams who are there have won something to be there. There's a couple of teams I think who've made it through coefficients, and some of the European sides are there because no European country can have more than 2 entrants. So there are kind of situations where the qualification is a little bit murky. It's a little bit kind of like, right, I'm not quite sure what Red Bull Salzburg have done to warrant a place, but okay. The flip side, like you say, is that it does feel as though, certainly let's say 3 of the best 12 teams in the world are not at this tournament. And if you throw in Arsenal, you can probably make that case the team that finished second in the Premier League deserved a shot. It's strange that Dortmund are there but not Leverkusen. I think that's probably unavoidable. But ultimately, the team that wins it will declare themselves world champions, and they will believe themselves to be world champions because they have won the tournament designed to identify the champions of the world according to the criteria that were set out beforehand. And that is ultimately how all this stuff works. It is slightly strange. It's particularly strange, Rog, that they've managed to get 2 Portuguese teams in, neither of whom are the best team in Portugal. But apart from that, I guess you have to on this one, you have to have a little bit of sympathy with FIFA, because you need to draw a cut-off somewhere.
And cut-off arguments you have to do, Raw, which means the other big talking point of the opening round is the conditions, the dry pitches. Luis Enrique laughed, ironically, at how the ball bounces, quote, like a rabbit on some of the fields he's played in. The heat wave, which is currently engrossing the nation. Enzo Maresca talked about how the scorching conditions in Philadelphia made it impossible for Chelsea to train ahead of their game against Esperance. We are living in a nation right now where Major League Baseball players and I think umpires are passing out or falling ill. It's really been painful to watch during this. It can only be described as an extreme heat wave. Honestly, reminds me a little bit of the World Cup in 1986 in Mexico, where the games were forced to be played at midday for European television purposes, and Diego Maradona said it's not football time then, it's siesta time. But we actually know so much more now than we did in the 80s about the dangers of elite athletes playing in this heat in this day and age. And this tournament, it feels like it's been competed by some teams who actually care deeply about it, mostly the Brazilian ones, and those who really don't, and are kind of treating it as almost a training or just US marketing exercise.
Yeah, there's been an interesting divide, hasn't there? Because the teams from outside Europe, it strikes me, are all trying incredibly hard. They see this as being enormously important to them for various different reasons. And they are, and I think several players have mentioned this, they are a little bit more used to the heat in some cases. Al Hilal are not intimidated by the heat. Brazilian teams play year-round, often in incredibly warm temperatures. To me, the heat thing kind of has two elements to it. One is that FIFA are going to have to think about what they do next summer for the Men's World Cup. They're really going to have to decide what's important to you. Is it what the games look like and feel like, or is it making sure Europeans can watch them at convenient times?
And European teams can actually play in them with any kind of modicum of tenacity. It's going to be super. It sucks to be Iceland, baby.
It really does. And the other thing is that I remember the World Cup in 1994, and in certain games that was incredibly hot in the US. But I don't remember it being the case that they introduced drinks breaks, but I don't remember them having to delay games because of storms. I don't remember that there being this sense of endangering the players' well-being. That alone should kind of tell you that something fairly substantial has changed in the climate. That this is the reality we're dealing with now, and we're going to have to start to confront it. That if you can't hold a World Cup in the Northern Hemisphere summer, then you need to think about when you have the World Cup and where you have the World Cup. But maybe also you need to think about why you can't have those games happening in the Northern Hemisphere summer. Because if it's too hot to play football, then that's not great. I'm
going to cut that conversation out right now and save it, Raw, for my other podcast today in climate denying. But I will just say, we should do it like a proper World Cup and move it to November. I don't know why no one's talking about it, but it is creating this Club World Cup feels like a very expensive Carabao Cup where the whole, half the field don't really give a crap and they're not really trying unless they go super, super deep into it by accident. And then they're suddenly, silverware, we'll go for it. But I said on Monday's show, I do believe there's a real tournament here. There really is the real bones, the real vision for a tournament post-dog food. If they can get the competitive integrity of it right, the playing conditions, but also the marketing, which has been it's been kind of akin to putting a reported $50 million in the garbage can and setting it on fire. This tournament was largely marketed almost as a Gianni Infantino charm offensive. He's been the face of it. Going into this tournament, Gianni was everywhere on American television, in American media. You can do a Gianni marketing campaign and improve his visibility in this nation, but it's a very different thing than emotionally connecting to an audience here, which this tournament is completely misunderstood. There is a profoundly passionate, deeply connected base of American football fans. I see them every time I fly back to England. There's thousands of you listening to this show right now who fly to watch Premier League games with your hard-earned dollars. You go and watch the team you love. It's a discerning, deeply knowledgeable audience, actually super served with football in the United States right now. There's been almost no emotional connection made between this tournament and that audience. If FIFA had marketed the stories, the histories, the passion of the competing teams and their quite delirious fan bases who have been the story of this tournament with real beauty and passion and wonder, it's almost been a profound misconnection, Raw, between the American fan base and the organisers, their marketing strategy and goals.
Yeah, and I think if you look at what we've talked a little bit, Roger, about the South American fans that have kind of enlivened the tournament, that is the perfect opportunity. FIFA, and I'm conflicted a bit on whether this is a good idea or a bad idea, a good thing or a bad thing. FIFA have basically taken one of the great soccer bucket list experiences, which is seeing Boca Juniors play, and they've transplanted it to the States. And that's an incredible opportunity for people. And yet they didn't lean into that, or seeing Flamengo or Fluminense or Palmeiras, these incredible teams that you aren't normally exposed to. Seeing Mamelodi Sundowns, the South Africa's Brazilians, or even Ulsan, who have not really left a mark on the tournament, but you get to see kind of this South Korean superpower. That is interesting. To neglect all of that in favour of kind of talking a bit about, Erling Haaland, I think is a bit weird. But to neglect all of it in favour of saying, this is the guy who set this tournament up, isn't he interesting? He's just downright insane. There is no way that you will buy a ticket to see a tournament because you really like Gianni Infantino. I mean, whether he's got like some sort of Vince McMahon complex, I don't know. That might be, he might see that as being kind of his role. But even if you look at some of his social stuff, where, you know, they announced that the FIFA anthem with Robbie Williams and an Italian singer, it was Gianni doing a TikTok style video. But why? Like, Robbie Williams is quite famous. No one knows who Gianni Infantino is, and do you know what? No one should know who Gianni Infantino is.
That's BS. I'm sorry, dude. No one knows who Robbie Williams is over here.
Oh, that's true.
But Gianni is Speed sidekick. Come on,
he's Speed. He's Speed. The other guy on the Speed stream. Yeah, it's a fair point on Robbie. Robbie maybe is not especially famous in the US anyway, but Gianni's desire to be front and centre looks deliberate. It looks like a chosen strategy. It looks like something that FIFA have kind of leaned into. And it makes no sense. There are so many stories.
I think you've nailed it. The Vince McMahon of global football is, my God. Gianni should watch the Vince McMahon documentary. But my God, you know what? I bet you millions of Americans are like, my God, that ball guy is the host of Dog Fooding. It's massive here, baby. I want to touch upon this quickly. Then I want to talk about Liverpool, United, City, a couple of other teams. But as a result of all of this, you've nailed it. There's been magical scenes, beautiful scenes. Brazilian fans, Palmeiras, Botafogo taking over the Brooklyn Bridge or your local Walmart. Aurora Red Diamonds fans came by the thousand here. Al Ahly supporters were honestly watching them at bing bong levels of delirium. We could go on. And you watch these fans and you realise, and when some of them have been interviewed about it, the enormous financial sacrifices they've made to be here. I do need to ask you, where are the Chelsea fans? Where are the City fans? We know there are passionate fan bases. They do have hardcore travel, home and away, diehards who follow them all over Europe, but they're really not here. How do you understand that?
I think part of it is because England was inherently quite sceptical about the tournament. So if you're a Chelsea or a City fan, you'd be looking at what looks to you like a pre-season tournament, a pre-season tour type thing. That's what you're told it is. You can't be sure that your team is going to be in any way like emotionally invested in it. So maybe you're not persuaded to travel. What surprised me a little bit, Rog, is that there hasn't been more of a kind of groundswell of Chelsea fans or City fans in the US who have turned up for their games. I think part of that might be that they've seen a lot of them in recent years. If you're a Chelsea fan in, give me a random American city, Lincoln, Nebraska, then you're not going to travel to Atlanta to see them. And that's fair. That's completely fair enough. That's expensive. The other thing that I think, and I agree with you, I think FIFA have misjudged the US audience completely. I think they have patronised the US audience. They've assumed that football is a novelty and that people will just go and watch it because it's, hey, what's this crazy sport? I think quite a lot of Premier League fans in general probably know Chelsea aren't very good. They're not especially entertaining to watch at the moment. It's Maresca ball. It's a team in permanent transition, and they're not that much of a draw, to be perfectly honest. I think if that's Arsenal, that's maybe different. I think if it's Arsenal, maybe more Americans turn out to see this team that is at the cutting edge of the sport. If it's Chelsea, not so much.
Very quickly, you told me the other day you think if Liverpool were here, they would sell out.
100%. I think if Liverpool or Manchester United and probably Arsenal and maybe Spurs were in the tournament, I think they would sell those stadiums out. I'm 90% sure of it.
Gianni, if you're listening, and I know you're listening, just work out how to create a reason to have Wrexham qualify.
That'll do it.
Yeah, I know that'll do it. You can fill the big house at Ann Arbor. To the Premier League, let's catch up with all the moves that have been going down since we last podded. Raw. First up, start with your Liverpool Football Club, who are buying every bloody body. The biggest, splashiest, most, oh my God, what a quality. I'm a hater, but I'm salivating. The quality of the players they're targeting, recruiting, big movers in this transfer window. British record signing a 22-year-old German ace, Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen for $158 million. Signing of another Leverkusen player, they're quite sizzling and really a remarkable human being. Feel-good character, do-good character. Right back Jeremy Frimpong, I think 41 million. News today, of that dynamic mulleted cube of a left-back blur, Milos Kerkez, from the Golden War Cherries at Bournemouth for $54 million means your club's outlay so far this summer stands at $253 million. A little bit of smoke but no fire yet around Alexander Isak, which would do me in. And last season, the only real change was the manager. Arne Slot said to me when he came on 2 months ago, he was the only transition over the last summer. Look how that worked. But this summer, he promised it will be the squad, rotating, freshening up all over the place. Raw, are you printing up currently knock-off, back-to-back title-winning T-shirts as we pod? Or do you fear too much change when all you needed last season was the addition of one Chiesa?
Yeah, I'm slightly sceptical about the kind of scale of Liverpool's overhaul. It strikes me as being... like, it's really encouraging. You want to strengthen from a position of strength. That's a really good idea. But at the same time, there is always a transition period when you bring lots of new players in. And as you say, they've signed 2 new fullbacks. They've signed a playmaker who will be the centrepiece of the team. And they're not done. I think they want a forward. They might want a central defender. They may well go and sign another midfielder. That's an awful lot of people. That makes me think that perhaps next season there might be a little bit of bedding in time required. But at the same time, Liverpool won the Premier League last season whilst needing a refresh. That was obvious for quite a lot of the year. And so it's encouraging, I think, to see them going out and doing it. And look, to be honest, it's really hard, as someone who's watched a reasonable amount of Florian Wirtz, it's really hard not to be excited by Liverpool signing Florian Wirtz. That is the first time... I've been trying to work out the last time Liverpool signed the player, the attacking player, that everybody wanted, that everyone in their market wanted. You can maybe say that Alisson and Van Dijk, goalkeeper and a defender, kind of fitted that bill. Some of my friends sort of said to me, maybe Fernando Torres back in 2007, but I think, the superpowers in the Premier League at that time, Manchester United, Chelsea, I think they looked at Torres and they weren't that sold on his goal return. I think the last time Liverpool kind of pulled off a move that had that kind of impact was either Stan Collymore didn't work out well in 1995. That's one for the
Googlers.
Yeah, you might need to Google that one. He was a Nottingham Forest striker who lit up the Premier League for one season. Liverpool broke the British transfer record to sign him. The move ultimately didn't work out. His first season was okay. It went downhill after that. But before that, Rog, and this one may well kind of stir your memory banks, I think the last time Liverpool signed a player that had the fan base this excited immediately was John Barnes.
When I'm on the ball, the crowd go, oh, not just a great footballer, but a great early British rapper as well.
Probably the most influential musician in British history.
Arguably, I mean, he sang with New Order too. God bless. He's got quite the track listing, but an incredible, just football as silk and an incredible human being, iconic. I will say very quickly, it was fascinating and also a little bit heartbreaking to see the reaction to all this from Boston Red Sox fans, including Bill Simmons, all melting down because their star Red Sox, Rafael Devers, was quite inexplicably traded to the Giants by the same owners, FSG. They were like, is this funding the football team? But the honest reason, Raw, Liverpool are able to do all of this. I think it's pretty simple. The Liverpool Echo wrote earlier this week, Liverpool can do more because they earn more, and they've then managed their finances better than most in recent years in terms of giving themselves the financial wherewithal to be impactful with their business. I know people don't like rational explanations, but that is kind of it.
Well, and also they've had, I think, 3 transfer windows in a row where they've not spent a huge amount of money. As you say, Chiesa was the only signing last summer. There was nothing in January, and there was nothing in the January before that. Liverpool can keep their powder dry until the opportunity is right, and that's what they're doing this summer. I am surprised at the scale of it, but they've kind of earned the right to go big at this point, to be honest.
From a club that's oddly doing sane, sage, stable, grown-up business too, Tottenham Hotspur. And since we last podded, Daniel Levy, club chair, looked at Ange Postecoglou, the man who delivered the club's first trophy in 17 years. And within 13 days, he popped the empathetic Australian down by the river into a sack like old Yeller and let him go. Raw, I loved Ange. Made no secret of being a Postecoglouite. But he just had the worst Premier League season in club history. So where are you? First, on this litmus test of humanity in terms of the decision between the emotional and the rational, were you like, Ange, he came in, he lost Harry Kane, he raised hopes, he struggled, he played naive football, he was left to flounder through trials and tribulations, but he persevered and he gave the fans their greatest night in 41 years? Or are you like, Europa League, masked the truth that the football was terrible, huge problems all over that squad, and Ange was never going to fix them? Had to go.
I think I'm both of those things at the same time, Rog, to be honest. I think you can hold both of those positions, that the league campaign made it inevitable. Spurs can't be finishing 17th, even if he's prioritising the Europa League, even if he's trying to make sure that all the players are fit for those games. They shouldn't be finishing 17th. That's a massive underperformance. But at the same time, in this, I've got to credit this thought to my friend Dion Fanning, who's a brilliant Irish journalist. It kind of spoils the memory of the Europa League final, doesn't it? That basically what's happened is Spurs have had their biggest night with maybe the Ajax semi-final in the Champions League in 2019, maybe apart from that. They've had their biggest night since 2008, and within 2 weeks their chairman's gone, well, that doesn't mean very much. That kind of sours the memory a little bit. Doesn't it?
Or does it? Or do you not read enough Norse mythology of the great warrior who dies in battle in victory? I mean, and then goes off to Valhalla. Big Ange's face. Yeah, Big Ange's face. You mean for the? Oh, I understand.
For the fans.
Big Ange's face forever. His ghost will forever haunt. I mean, for years to come. If they get this wrong. From Valhalla, which is where, as far he's the manager of Valhalla United for life now. Big Ange is looking down and hovering. I mean, I find it to be such a nourishing human force. That's why I love the man. Left to disappear, like Bing Bong, fading away, inside out. I do think it creates a massive challenge for Spurs. They have to win quickly now, or else his name, his big, beautiful face from Valhalla United will be hovering over the stadium, sung from the terraces. Spurs will seem like the ultimate banter club, a place where Pochettino was sacked 6 months after leading to a Champions League final. Mourinho let go 6 days before the League Cup final. And then Ange died so that Thomas Frank could live. Raw, quick burst on Thomas Frank. I'm intrigued by this. He impressed the heck out of all of us in, was it 7 years at Brentford? Took them from the second tier into the Premier League. And made him a Premier League clenched fist in a buzzy, disciplined, cutting-edge Premier League reality. He's thorough, he's resilient, he's super smart, looking for minute advantages. He's also lost star after star and found a way to keep on sharpening and improving. This is a moment in a bigger spotlight, bigger stakes, bigger pressure. How's it going to go?
I think if you can part kind of whether Postecoglou should have been sacked or not, there's no question that Frank's a really smart hire. He is emotionally intelligent, he's flexible, he's really personable, very charismatic. He's done brilliant work at Brentford. I worry a little bit about Brentford next season, Roger, if I'm completely honest. I don't know whether they can repeat the trick. This is their first big test, not just losing Frank, the manager who's been there throughout, but potentially Brian Mbeumo as well, who's probably their best player. It's going to be a big question mark over whether Brentford can make it work. But Frank, for Spurs, makes perfect sense, I think. And to be honest, he might even fill a little bit of that Ange-shaped hole in your heart, that he does have that kind of empathy that speaks to people. He is a brilliant communicator. He's a really likeable man. He's got amazing hair. I can see there being a kind of religious vibe to kind of Thomas Frank as well. I don't know whether would you be a Frankite, a Frankist, a Frankenstein, something like that?
There was a religion, Frankism, I think it was. It was like a religious sect. I can't remember much about it, but it was founded by Jacob Frank. It was like some kind of pagan religion. Many of you who truly understand theology will know it's not why you tune into this. You tune into this for our climate change opinions. I will say I loved his quote, Thomas Frank, at the beginning of his opening press conference. If you don't take risks, you also take risks. So it's important we take risks. That is very Spurs DNA. I do imagine Eberechi Eze will be incoming. Fascinating to see how much he can change. Spent time with AVB this summer. He told me he became Tottenham manager, negotiated a list of incoming players. I don't think that many that he expected actually did come in. Things just work differently there. Be the opposite in a way of Brentford's quite organised discipline. And I'll say the idea that Brentford will now be relegated, we've predicted Brentford's relegation so many times. They've lost so many star players like Benarama to Ollie Watkins to Ivan Toney. Their doom keeps being predicted every time. Their set-piece coach, Keith Andrews, is said to have signed the next manager. I think we'll find out whether they do plummet, whether it was a one-man Thomas Frankism army, or whether really their run as an organisation in a serious systems vision way, a little bit like Brighton, and next season will be the tell. But talking about extreme makeovers, we're going to talk about Manchester City. At the end of last season, Pep said, I want a smaller squad. A lot of talk of exits, Jack Grealish, James McAtee, Kyle Walker. Spanish papers even suggesting Nico Gonzalez is going to Grandpa Simpson his way in and out of Manchester. But I want to focus on the incoming. One of the biggest refreshings of a squad at City, I think since 2017. Midfielder Gianni Reinders, 26 years old, coming in from AC Milan for a very cool, I use that word loosely, $55 million. A propulsion engine in Serie A last season. Flair, creative energy of 21-year-old Frenchman Ryan Cherki arrived from Olympique Lyon for 40 million, 12 goals, 20 assists last year. At the back, City have finally, got themselves a true left-back. Ait-Nouri come in from Wolverhampton for $37 million. Raw, that's all flung on top of, was it like the 250 million plus of acquisitions last January? Have City instantly got their aura back?
No, I think it'll take a little bit longer than that, to be honest, but they are really exciting signings. Cherki, in particular, is one of those players who has been talked of as the next big thing in Europe for probably 5 years. He was playing for Lyon when he was 16. There is an element of kind of wild child about him. I think he's been previously quite difficult to manage. He is still a very young man. Alexandre Lacazette, the former Arsenal striker, who was at Lyon with him last season, said he saw something click in him, that he felt as though Cherki had finally realised that if he helped the team to shine, then he would shine. Guardiola's obviously seen something in him and believes he can kind of tame him a little bit. Gianni Reinders, my favourite player in Italy apart from Scott McTominay last season. He's absolutely brilliant, a real kind of dynamo in midfield. He will be an immediate hit, I think. And Ait-Nouri isn't particularly good defensively, but going forward he's creative and imaginative and quick and bold, and I think he will do really well. But I also think it will take all of them time to get used to Pep's system, and it'll take Pep a little bit of time to find a system that gets the best out of all of them, as well as all the other stars he's already got there. Those are all good signings. The question mark for me with City were the signings they made in January, apart from Omar Mamouche.
From City to Chelsea Football Club, Liam Delap, that pocket destroyer, in for a quite reasonable, sensible $40 million. He's looked potent, vivacious in his link-up play too. Another striker said to be on the way. Has Enzo Maresca got the reinforcements he needs for this team to win with 10 men when Nico Jackson inevitably gets sent off? Delap, to me, he's almost a very different kind of player. It's almost like the English papers are talking about, is this culture change? But they're also linked to Garnacho, so maybe not.
No, and the issue with Chelsea is you never know how many more players they'll sign. So it may well be that Delap is the final piece of the jigsaw, and that Chelsea will respond to that by starting a completely different puzzle. So they also, they may well go and sign 2, 3, 4, 5 more. They've got William Esteval coming in at some point, Kendry Paez, the Ecuadorian kid they've signed. There is this endless churn of players. Delap is a funny one because he went into Ipswich last year as a backup for George Hurst, and then George Hurst got injured in the first game, and it suddenly became Liam Delap's starting role, Liam Delap's season. It's been a really kind of quick rise for him, but he does offer Chelsea something different. He's a big physical presence. He's a type of striker a lot of teams won't have faced that often. It feels to me like that's one of those deals that is destined to work, to be honest, and maybe that gives Chelsea the edge they need.
God bless, Raw. I was there when Ipswich played Everton at the end of last season, and the Everton fans coaxed Liam Delap off the Ipswich bus, which he could have quite happily stayed on and ignored them, and escorted him into a home, a famous home, right by Goodison Park, where the Everton legends have all signed the wall. Liam Delap went in there and signed the wall, which led many Everton fans to believe he was signing for us. So I do believe, God bless, he wouldn't have got off that bus unless he fully intended to fail at Chelsea and become an Everton loanee sensation in 2 seasons' time. Welcome, Liam. You'll be very good when you play at the Big Dick, but that's for next year's preview. We'll mark this down. By the way, Enzo Maresca's side have reached the Club World Cup last 16. They'll face Benfica in the great city of Charlotte this Saturday. Winning the game will then face Palmeiras or Botafogo in the quarterfinals. Quite an open side, or a generous side of that draw. Want to touch quickly on Manchester United. They brought in Wolves' petulant one. Cunha also said to have submitted the second bid this morning for Brentford's quite potent Brian Mbeumo for $80 million. Lots of exits rumoured there, trying to dump Sancho, Rashford, Højlund, long rumoured to be out there. Is this United summer of change? Is this like the proper players being brought in for the Amorim system? Or is this kind of it? Is it Cunha and Mbeumo, and then we're just treading water and waiting for the inevitable grinding down and crushing of the spirit of poor Ruby Amorim?
Well, I mean, I'd hope that no one crushes Brian Mbeumo's spirit, because he's one of the most likeable players in the Premier League. Cunha, I'm not sure on, if I'm completely honest. Cunha looked like a player who was quite good for quite a bad team and has cost quite a lot of money, and I don't know whether that makes me think that Manchester United are scouting in the most sensible way. There has to be a lot of change at United this summer, and the problem they've got is that you can do Cunha, you can do Mbeumo, and at that point you have to start selling players. And those players are all on a lot of money. None of them have played well for an awfully long time, and there aren't that many teams to sell them to. So the question for United will be, can you get the players out of the door that raise the funds to get more players in? Because ultimately, Cunha and Brian Mbeumo, and I say this as an Mbeumo believer, Rog, they can't do it by themselves.
An Mbeumo believer. My God, we're just spawning religions left, right and centre. Other news, Woody Johnson, heir of the Johnson & Johnson fortune and New York Jets owner, is buying 43% of Crystal Palace to replace the quite singular, let's just say chameleonic figure of John Textor, whose multi-club ownership is still threatening Palace's hard-earned place in Europe. I've enjoyed the reaction of every single Jets fan I know who've texted me over the last 2 days to say, Palace are effed. I can't think of anyone less South London than Woody Johnson. But one more before we go, Raw. Can we just raise a glass to Real Oviedo in Spain, who returned to the top flight? It was magnificent, Raw. It was really moving to watch that 40-year-old wizard of joy, Santi Cazorla, scored a leveller from the penalty spot for his boyhood club, which he's returned to propel them on their way to a win over Mirandés, which sends them back to La Liga for the first time in 24 years. They have experienced agony. They're near bankruptcy. They plummeted to the fourth level. Their return has been remarkable to witness. It involves an English journalist, Sid Lowe, and a Mexican industrialist investor, Carlos Slim. Romance and slightly less romance, but it is magic irrespective.
It is wonderful. Real Oviedo were kind of a force in Spanish football in the late 1990s. They weren't obviously at the level of Barcelona or Real Madrid, but they were in that second tier of teams who would occasionally compete for a European place. They had a list of kind of either homegrown stars who were beloved in the city and in the region, or quite high-profile imports from South America in particular. They went bankrupt. There was a massive kind of effort of local fans and international fans to buy shares in the club to keep them alive. That allowed the club to keep on going, as you say, in this kind of reduced form in the fourth division. And they have painstakingly had to pick their way back through the leagues. To see them back, to see those scenes in Oviedo of fans spilling onto the pitch, of players in the town centre, in the city centre, with their fan base was really remarkable. The fact it happened in June is a bit weird. Like, come on, guys, get your promotion and relegation sorted out in May. Have some decency. But Oviedo have waited long enough for this moment. A quarter of a century they've been away. It's brilliant for them to be back.
Raw. And talking of brilliant, it's time to take a letter to close from a great friend of our pod. Let's close the show in the style. Do the honours. It's Sally Ives from Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, the town that Chris Richards built. Raw, take it away.
And Sally writes, Rog and Rory, you are a bolt of energy in my otherwise challenge-full day. These are tough times. But football is a light in the darkness, as you often say. One thing I love about you is the enthusiasm and passion you feel for America. I think we Americans always love what outsiders love about them, just like people always love compliments from strangers. Which one city in America have you not been to that you would love to go to? Courage, Sally.
Oh, Roy, you are a travelling man. You're about to arrive on these shores. You're a gent who works for food and gelato. I did love where, as you said up top, when we were in Atlanta, was it like 3 months ago? And we had a couple of hours. You go, I'm just going to go and explore Decatur, and just because. So what's on your list? The places you've not been to here that you would love to go to?
There's a lot of places in the US that I've not been to that I would love to go to. I don't know if I've ever told this story on air, Rog, but when me and my wife were planning my honeymoon, my pitch was that we should go to Lincoln, Nebraska, hire a car, and drive to Yellowstone. And my wife's view was that was not an appropriate honeymoon, and she didn't want to do it. But I stand by that call. So maybe linked in Nebraska. Philly has been on my list for ages. I've never been to Chicago. I'd love to go to Chicago.
What?
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
So, like, genuinely, we've made plans to go to Bodo Glimt, but we've never been to Chicago.
Bodo Glimt is a lot closer to me than Chicago is. That may not be geographically true. I don't know. Bodo Glimt is quite a long way away. So I think they would both be up there. But there's so many. I can't choose. Indianapolis, I'd love to go to.
I love Indianapolis.
All
John
those
Green
places.
Kingdom.
There's so much. My knowledge of the US is not what it should be, but I'm hoping, Roger, and I have said this to you before, that the more live shows we start doing together, I want them in all those places. I want them in that big middle of America. That's where I want to be.
I've got to tell you, I mean, I have been blessed, Raw and Sally, to go to so many places in this nation. I've tasted all the chicken wings. I've experienced so many of the ribs, the Juicy Lucy's along the way. I watch a lot of movies, but there's still, like, every movie lover still has a movie that they're ashamed that they have not seen. I've never seen Ghostbusters. I'm embarrassed to admit that. And so in that way, in American cities, I've never been to San Antonio. I was just in Austin and Dallas again last week, and I'm so agonised. A lot of people drove from San Antonio to be with Clint and me. I've not been there. I want to be in San Antonio. I've always dreamed, to your point, Raw, of doing a live show beneath Mount Rushmore or in Zion National Park, somewhere really just like amazing. Just set up, you and me start podcasting, see if anyone turns up while we're doing a live show.
Just some bears.
Oh my God, I'd bite your arm off.
They would.
Yeah, they probably literally. Wouldn't that be ironic? Even Alanis Morissette would say, how did Roger Bennett die? After years of saying, bite your arm off if a bear came while I was podcasting with you, Raw. And I'd be like, my last words would be, guys, I'm just dog fooding. And then they'd do me.
They would literally bite your arm off for dog food.
That
would be great. I mean, you didn't even say national parks to me. That opens a whole new world, a whole vista of places.
I'd love it. I've always wanted to go to Texarkana. That's probably the one most, just because the name is just so mystical. I once got a train through Texarkana, but I don't count that. Do you count that when you just fly through a city or no, it doesn't count.
You have to eat there.
Yeah, is that what it is? Is that the rule?
If you've
like,
eaten
thou
there,
shalt not show your calves, and thou must eat in the city rather than just drive through it.
You can't say you have been somewhere unless you have stopped and eaten there.
So hang on, if I'm in an airport and I eat like a Chick-fil-A,
you've been to the airport.
I've been to the airport. That's fair. That's totally fair.
Airports are different. Like if you've transited through an airport, then you've been to the airport. But you shouldn't be boasting about how many airports you've been to.
I just want to be clear. I love this land. Travelling it is one of the joys of my lifetime. I love it in the way Langston Hughes wrote in Let America Be America Again, the land that never has been yet and yet must be. In that regard, it is time to go. Sally, thank you for that magical letter, Raw. I can't wait to be with you here. I do love talking about this. It makes me, it makes me excited for you to come over. I can't wait to be in DC now at the weekend. I can't wait to go live with Clint Dempsey for a live taping of The Deuce. After US face Costa Rica at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be live on YouTube at the final whistle. Come and be with us. Keep writing to us. Send us your photos of your dogs and cats and their footballing connections. We've now got a competition, Pet FC, which you can be part of. meninblazers@gmail.com. Your letters give us joy and energy, and we really need it. We are 351 days from World Cup 2026. Let's savour each one of those. Raw. Huge love to you. I can't wait to be with you in the United States of America.
I will see you very soon, Rog.
I can't tell you, genuinely, no flippant. I love it more than I can say. This is Rog, send you all big love. Let's not take a second of watching football, even dog fooding football, together for granted, and courage.